2020 is going to be a difficult year to forecast. There are so many uncertainties that are affecting capital investment, business fixed investment, and whether or not consumer spending growth will continue at the rate we've seen in the past. Those uncertainties are going to have to be resolved. The timing of the resolution of those uncertainties and what the final resolutions are almost impossible to forecast. So forecasting whether we're going to have a recession or not in 2020 becomes a matter of how quickly and the degree to which these resolutions occur. Well, there are a lot of people who are forecasting or expecting to see a recession in 2020. For some people, it's just a function of the length of this business expansion, which is now the longest in the history of this country, over 10 years. And the belief is that it's just time. We're due for a recession. Other people look at what I would refer to as soft data, which is data indicating that expectations about the future have been declining. Things like the ISM index, industrial production, manufacturing, all of which have reflective of future expectations. The hard data, things like the unemployment rate, job growth, wage increases, continue to be very solid in this country. So the hard data doesn't suggest that we're turned over and are heading down, but the soft data says we certainly have that risk. And the Fed has cited the uncertainties that caused the soft data to decline as reasons for them to make what they refer to as a mid-cycle adjustment by lowering interest rates in anticipation of the need to ensure that the economic expansion continues into 2020. Well, two different things. First of all, auto sales have remained very strong, well above 17 million on average annually, all the way through the first 9 months of 2019, with no indication that we're about to see a significant slowdown in auto sales. The average age of the fleet of cars that are out there still tell us that there are people, many people, who own cars that are 8-10 years old and want to upgrade and move to the new kinds of technologies in cars. And I think we're going to continue to see it, plus the innovation in the auto industry with electric cars and self-driving vehicles and things like that, I think will create additional demand. Housing, which has been a weak sector of the economy over the last couple of years, appears to be turning around. Existing home prices that have risen to the point now where builders can actually build a house and sell it for more than it costs to build. They can make a profit. That's not a condition that's existed in the last 7 or 8 years in this country. So the demand for housing, I think, is increasing at a faster pace than the supply of housing has over the last few years. That would indicate prices are going to continue to rise and that builders will be more active in housing starts and construction activity. The ag industry is certainly one of those sectors that has a great deal of uncertainty. Clearly, we need export markets to support ag commodity prices. We grow significantly more in this country than our own domestic requirements. And therefore, we need to have access to export markets for those ag commodities. Without that access, ag commodity prices would remain weak. And even though yields this year are generally better than a lot of people feared with the wet spring, the income that the farmer's getting has been negatively impacted by the commodity prices. So reaching some trade agreement with China, which would be the biggest market that we export ag commodities to, is extremely important. I don't have any ability to forecast when or if that trade agreement will ever be reached. But it's key to whether the ag commodity prices go up and support the cost of production. First of all, we need a resolution to this impeachment process, one way or the other. That needs to end because that is a political uncertainty that affects a lot of people's optimism or expectations for their own business in 2020. We need trade agreements, and we need to get away from the tariffs and trade war that also create uncertainties. We need to see faster economic growth in our trading partners, most specifically China and Europe. And we need to see inflation reach the Fed's target of at least 2% in order to take some pressure off the Fed from having to continually cut interest rates. So I think there are some things to watch carefully as a businessman, but certainly the biggest single one is more political stability. That's something awfully difficult to achieve in a presidential election year.